I know that the Nelda Blairs of the world, and I know that the Bruce Tufts of the world and others are there and are involved in all of this type of activity. There are some things I know that are being done or that have been done that really don't have anything to do with anybody's real, with the need for protection, for education, these kinds of things that we stand for. For instance, we're turning soccer fields, we need soccer fields. I know that they just took over, they built these 2 soccer fields up here over by the motorcycle track. But we take over off of Research Forest, we take soccer fields and we turn them into a dog playground deal. I mean, help me with this.
So you don't want the dog vote?
I love dogs. I have 3 dogs. But we have so much money. I'd like to see a little bit of that come back. How is it that we can do what we've done up there on the lake? This thing keeps coming up to me as I think about whether it's federal dollars or whatever. Who can authorize, who allows for us to buy 6 boats of whatever cost they are? Who allows us to spend upwards of $850,000 on a dock? Okay, that's every time I drive by, it's just sitting. I see them every once in a while at holidays, and please tell me how $5 a person is going to ever pay any of this money back, especially recently in spending $50,000 in refurbishing each one of those boats and having to already clean up a spill. I mean, I'm assuming that that's a little bit of a problem. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I love the woodlands. I love to see the cool stuff around here and the cool statues and all the rest. But we have so many people coming in. We got Exxon coming in. We have other oil companies and other companies that are coming here so fast. Economy of scale says, I've got so much money coming in for the amount of expenses that I have. Things ought to be dropping, and they're going up. That has to do with expansion of government. That has to do with what they're doing with our tax dollars. They've been in charge. I'm just an old car guy running 6 businesses under the same roof, trying to figure out how to deal with private money.
Their chairman's a Methodist pastor, so I expect you to have a little bit more empathy.
Well, you know, and I love him. He's one of my customers. Pastor Rob is a friend and a good guy. But, you know, Bruce is now in charge of that deal. He was sworn in the other night.
Oh, yeah.
I went and watched.
Forgot about that.
Nelda Blair got awards, and I mean, it was cool. And they've done great things, but they're not afraid to spend money. So what happens to me, in my judgment, is I think about this, I think, okay, we're taking in all this money, so we're doing all this extra stuff, and if they're not stopping the taxes or lowering taxes, that means they're creating new opportunities, which is creating more bureaucracy, which is creating bigger government.
So let me jump in. Let's jump here. So when it comes to, there's this basic, people are oriented toward either they're a little bit, safety is their big deal, or liberty is their big deal. Which are you, and why?
Safety or liberty?
They compete with each other.
Or security.
Security, safety.
If you're quoting Ben Franklin or...
Well, government provided safety versus
Okay.
government letting us keep liberty.
I believe that the government is designed, that the purpose of government, one of the major purposes of government, is to protect our borders, to protect us, to punish evildoers. I believe that is that is essential. But at the same time, I also believe that because we are a free society, because freedom is important to us, that there are risks associated with freedom. I believe that a person ought to be able to pick up their telephone, and they ought to be able to make a telephone call without being listened to, even if they're listening for terrorists. Because in the hands of the wrong people, guess what's happening? They're listening to everybody. I think that in terms of how we operate as far as safety in airports, there is risk. There's risk. But you know what? To spend the amount of money that they spend, to pat us all down, to do whatever, to keep that security, the amount of inconvenience that's there, is one thing. Another thing is nobody doesn't want to be safe. We all want to be safe. But the fact of the matter is we have lost the battle if our way of life goes away because we're so concerned about what happens to us. Freedom is about standing for the things that are right. It's about punishing those who do wrong, rather than dialing back and figuring out ways to constantly protect ourselves and give up more freedom and more freedom and more freedom and more freedom. I'm a freedom guy.
Okay. Larry.
And let me just say this.
Okay.
And also, in that freedom, with the right to defend myself and my family as I need to do that.
Earlier you were talking about education and how everything, the kids are being taught with computers and all, and that ties right in with Agenda 20, not Agenda 20, with C-Scope. What kind of curriculum are you familiar with any of the curriculum of C-Scope?
No, I'm not familiar with it as if I have read it, but it's not curriculum. The issue with C-Scope, for me, has to do with transparency and parent involvement, not with the textbooks, but with the teaching tools that are given to the teachers. They're given online, and I mean, they're not even published, and they won't even let the parents see, or they won't let them have any involvement in it. That's the problem with C-Scope. They don't match the textbooks. Okay, so if that's the case, and I will get more into this, but in my understanding on a cursory note, as I'm getting into this and as I'm growing in it and as I'm learning, a pretty quick study. Just seems to me that what is in the textbooks ought to be reinforced by what the teachers are being required to teach. I also think that however this applies to everybody, whoever ends up watching this can take it, is that anybody who is in a position of authority in education cannot also be a lobbyist for any of a manufacturer who is producing things and who is producing online materials where they are pushing that for the benefit of the company that's making it. I mean, that's mind-boggling.
Okay, Kate.
You talked about phone calls, and government shouldn't be able to listen into them. Fair enough. Of course, the NSA is saying that they aren't listening into them.
I'm sorry, they're saying?
The NSA is essentially saying they are not listening to our phone calls. So, do you believe them? And what sort of action, if the federal government, which is supreme to the state government, is going to do something like that, what can the state do to protect its citizens?
Well, first of all, I do believe it's happening. Absolute power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if there's not a check and balance on that, if nobody's speaking out in it, then it's going to continue to take place. Now we know that it already has taken place. Okay? So how that stops or what takes place or how it moves forward in the future, I'm not sure. We as a state, though, because of states' rights, although they don't want us to, we have rights to protect our citizens as a state. We are able to do what we need to do to ensure, just like Steve Toth did with the gun issue, and how the bill that was passed was that if the government, basically was this, if the government passes that bill and these guys try and apply it to us here, we have a law in place that says they can't do it. And that's where states' rights come in. And so when it comes to listening in our phone conversations, when it comes to where we shop, how we use the internet, that sort of thing, those are personal issues, and my state ought to be able to protect me. At what level, I've not thought about how to go about doing that, but at what level that is, but I believe that we as a state, as a sovereign state, one of our distinctives in our platform as a state is that we are although we are connected to the national enterprise as one of the 50 states, we still have a right and a desire and an obligation to keep a measure of independence so that we can make decisions for our people on our behalf based upon how they vote and what they desire.
Dennis?
That's my thinking.
You know, in a lot of ways, the U.S. government and the state of Texas have some similar problems. At the national level, we see the EPA and Department of Labor passing rules that have the effect of law, things that Congress should do. And in Texas, we have a lot of agencies, and PUC is one, that passes rules that in effect are laws. And they pass some things that are actually socialist models, requiring companies and utilities to do things that are socialist in nature. So what's the state legislature gonna do, or how can the state legislature rein those guys in?
Well, there's a couple of ways. I think first of all, the state, I believe that there's a connection to term limits here. I'm a favor of term limits. I believe that when you do not have term limits, for not just state officials or elected officials, but also for bureaucrats, people who are in these organizations that are able to get a stronghold. It's like a tenured teacher in a university. Who comes up with this? Only the tenured teachers, only the teachers who want to stay there. It's like Congress votes themselves to be able to be, or not necessarily Congress, but the Senate voted on behalf of Congress so that they could be exempt from Obamacare. I mean, how can this happen? So you have this taking place at that level. So you have these guys in these organizations who have been there a long time, and it seems to become exacerbated over time. It gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse. We as a government have a right and a responsibility to make sure that the number one issue of which I believe in our environmental ethics, the number one issue is that our most valuable resource are our people. And where the issue crosses over, where restrictions are put in place, where the quality of life or people are damaged or hurt or loss of jobs or whatever, that needs to be put on hold, that needs to be talked about, and we need to put together the creativity of our most valuable resource and fix it, as opposed to just rolling over and playing dead on laws that have to do with the EPA.
One last question.
Does that make
James.
sense?
You got the last one there.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna ask just a general question then. How do you plan to run your campaign in order to be victorious? What do you plan to do? And your expected budget?
Right. First of all, let me say, I'm serious about this campaign. I put $50,000 of my own money into my campaign account the other day. I have another $50,000 waiting to go into it. My wife and I have personally pledged $100,000 of our retirement money to this, knowing that there's a possibility that we may not win and that we'll never get it back. So we have money to get going.
Okay.
The second thing that I have done is I've hired a consultant, Luke Macias. Luke Macias has been giving me great stuff. I met with him and my campaign chairman today. By the way, that money is at Wood Forest Bank. I met with my campaign chairman today, and we talked with Luke, and he is helping us with an overall plan for victory. That is coming, but let me tell you what we have done so far and where we're at. We have a website that's ready to go hot, and that's the announcement, that's the landing page. The website will come after that. We have the logo, that's all ready to go. We have business cards that will be coming this week, push cards, we have signs, all of that will be coming this week. This Friday, we are going to be walking. I talked with Amanda Venable today, and Bob Jones, Bob Hayes,
Not bad.
I'm not sure, but it's with that group. They're very positive. I believe that they're going to hook up with us, and we'll be able, when we go walking, we're not just gonna walk up and down streets. We're gonna be able to go to people who vote in primaries, and we're gonna be able to do that in short order. My plan is to be walking Friday afternoon, all day Saturday and Sunday after church. Now, in terms of the people that are involved, I have a gentleman, his name is Keith Simpson. Keith Simpson, immediately when he heard we were going to do it, we're going to do this, Keith has already organized. I probably have 20 people that are on a list right now who will walk immediately. Then we have also another list of people who are going to do dialing for dollars. We've probably got 10 to 12 of those people. We have a process in place. We're going to start that immediately. Of course, I'm going to be doing that as well. Then we also have a group of people. When my email goes out, we have people working with us that we know have email lists, but they won't give us their email lists. So I've got 3 or 4 people that Keith has put on a list that he says, if you will send us your emails, I will make sure that these people get it. And so we have those people on our list. We also probably have, right at this point, since we announced this last week, 7 or 8 homes of people, not to include me, which I'm willing to do and have done a number of times for Steve Toth and also my campaign chairman. So we have houses set up right now to start having these meet and greets in the evening. We have targeted 31 precincts. The objective is before we do this deal, I'm gonna lunch up those guys, as many as I can, to get their support. And then we'll towards the end begin to do TV, some TV spots, that sort of thing. But right now, the greatest opportunity for us is in getting out, shaking hands, talking to people, these opportunity meetings. We will have some fundraisers that are going to be coming up, but Luke is helping me with that when we decide to do that. Steve Toth won last year by just shy of 17,000 votes. He told me, Mark, if we put this in place where we're going to do it, you will win by over 15 points in this deal. I believe we have a winnable opportunity. I've got a group of people, there are many people from the church. But yet, we have been very clear, we're not taking church's money to do this.
Right.
I'm telling you, there is no crossover there. But we also checked out to see if we could use people that are already in the church to help us, and absolutely we can, and we're going to. Steve Toth's people have pledged to help us. If I can get the Montgomery County Tea Party on board, I know I can count on them to help us. If I can get some of these other conservative groups to help us, I believe we can do this. I really do believe we can do this.
Okay,
And
so let
that's
me,
what I intend to do.
I want to take about 2 minutes to kind of, what we forgot to say or what we need to know, just kind of do your closing arguments or points, and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. First of all, thank you all for having me, and this has been a very exciting exercise and thinking on my feet. And I very much appreciate it because I know this will not be the first time. I will also say that I know that my competitor is a formidable foe. I've looked at what he has done. I know that he is an attorney. But he's looking at me and he's going, that guy's been in the car business for the last 26 years. He is a formidable foe. He's also pastor of a church, and so he's used to dealing with people and articulating his position, of which I can do. Not everybody can do that. I can. I believe certain things, and I can do it very convincingly. And I hope that I've demonstrated at least some of that here this evening. I'm also, I have a huge heart for this because I'm a family guy, I am a pro-life guy, I am a constitutional conservative, I'm a fiscal conservative, and as mentioned at the outset, even in kind of closing, one of the causes here that we don't really talk about much is how much influence can I have to encourage the people that I am associated with who are conservatives to get out and vote. This is a huge issue. And I'm telling you, remember where you heard this. This is going to be an issue in this next election for governor, I promise you. Wendy Davis is absolutely dead serious about this. I don't know about y'all, but I'm deeply concerned about that. So at least here in this area, as I have the opportunity and as I meet with these one mission pastors, there's 18 to 20 of these guys that I meet with in our very next meeting, which is coming up in short order here. They're going to hear about this, what I'm doing and what they need to do. And you know, this is an extremely important issue for me. I'm excited about the opportunity. I believe that we do have a path to victory, although we are starting a little bit late, but we can use that to our advantage. And the reason I say that is because it is forcing us to move quickly. It's forcing us to get out. It's forcing us to knock on doors. My personal commitment, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this in the next 60 days, but my personal commitment is to knock on at least 5,000 doors. Amanda Venable has told me that they can provide me with lists of people who vote in primaries. I says, if you guys can just help me, I promise you we can get this done. And obviously there are things I need to learn. So if we're on the same team and we're all constitutional conservatives, and y'all are conservatives like me, and you believe the same things that I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong. Please help me and help me learn in this position. I promise you I'm a quick study. I am a quick study. I will learn and I will adopt this stuff, and I will do you all proud. I promise you in the state of Texas. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you very much for running it,
Yes, thank you.
coming and talking to us. We really appreciate it.
It's been an honor. Thank you. And my friend Ted Seago's coming in next, right?
Yep, he's next.
Steve didn't tell you that. the
16
minute-
comes after 15.
Steve didn't tell you the minute you're elected, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't warn you.
Purgatory up there. We all know where the office is.
Where do you come up with Steve?
That's what Steve told me.
He's gotta shake up our lives.
Thanks for running.
Man, thank you
My glass, I'll see if I can,
for having
glass,
us.
see if I can have
Jeff.
mine.
Good luck.
Good to see you again. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Towards me.
Thanks for having me.
Very much.
Thank you for
Is it on
stimulating discussion.
And, you might want to do some reading, Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Well, you know, I'm hooking up. And I'm going to their, matter of fact, I'm calling Arlene Wogomuth. Steve has recommended that he should do that a couple of times, and because I wasn't going to do this, I would have been in on the last round. But I also talked to Amanda Venable today and also Luke, and I know that I need to do that.
Sometimes guys make you do things that you don't want to do, doesn't he?
Well, yeah. But again, as I've been to the website, I've spent some time on it. I'm listening to podcasts off of that on my phone in the car, and it's driving my wife crazy. But by the way, my wife, I will tell you, Kim is totally engaged in this, and she's a
Has to
Southern
be.
Texas Southern Belle, and she will do us well, I promise you. So anyway,
Hey,
all right.
appreciate
Thanks,
you.
y'all. Larry, thanks for
Nice
finding
meeting
in
you.
contact like this.
Thank you.
See you later.
Boy, it makes me envious. Getting involved in a race where you're 3 months away from the primary. I ran for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I ran for US Congress.
Well, of course, this position didn't even become
Well,
available.
yeah, that's
This
also a
particular,
different
yeah.
color.
Yeah.
It all started
I was
when
helping.
I thought I had everything lined out for the debate, and Brandon Creighton did it. And he's kind of-
Did an ag to SD4 switch, huh?
Yeah, well, when he did that switch, and it kind of discombobulated the whole setup.
Yeah.
Even though he promised that that I would be the first to know, since I had all this stuff planned out. Let's see how good that word was, because I saw it on Facebook first.
You saw it on Facebook first.
Yeah, he blasted it. They blasted it out on Facebook. And he says, I'll call you first because I know that you've been working hard on the debate. So, out of respect, I'll call you first. Well, I opened Facebook and it's
There it
plastered all
is.
over. And I'm going, that's good. That was me first, wasn't it? Or anywhere close to first, within the first 5,000 maybe. But
And if you like your health care, you can keep it.
yeah, exactly.
Another political promise.
Right. So, but yeah, anybody that is in this position.
Okay,
Greetings.
And
greetings.
salutations.
Stay seated.
Don't worry.